It's Chris. What are we talking about today? Upcoming crowdfunding. And now this may sound far out, but 2024 is freaking upon us, folks. Literally around the corner. What are my most anticipated upcoming crowdfunding campaigns that are going to be launching in 2024? You ready? Let's go. So, what do we got first up? Well, let's start with probably the one I am most hyped for, just because I know nothing about it. It hasn't even been formally announced, only vaguely hinted at in the last crowdfunding Kickstarter update. And that's CMON's DC United, or in case you're not fully familiar, DC Marvel United, right? Season 3 will be delivering in 2024. That's a separate video we'll talk about later of the upcoming crowdfundings I expect to be arriving most anticipated. But DC United, taking the Marvel spin, we've seen 3 iterations already. We've seen 3 iterations of it. You have the DC license now with Zombicide. You saw a lot of crossover between Marvel Zombies and Marvel United. If you don't think they've looked at that and said, Marvel Zombies did better than Marvel United, I think it's going to be vice versa. I think DC United is going to kill it out of the box because I think that is probably a stronger overall bet with the Marvel United folks rather than the DC or Marvel Zombie side. I feel like it's an either or there. I feel like the United folks are give me everything you got. Maybe that's just my own personal bias speaking there, but I anticipate that one's going to be launched sometime in 2024 because right? Printing money, basically. One of, if not the highest potential funding of the year. Now, we'll stay right with CMON though, just because we'll get that out of the way. They've also announced we're not going with Masters of Eternia. That one's going over to Gamefound for some reason. That's a weird, but that really begs the question, is CMON really going over to Gamefound for all their stuff now, which really hasn't been answered? So will we see other ones, or is that just because they're doing sort of a reprint and now they're including a broader language appeal? Because that was also the one, if you remember, that you could only get in North America because the other Master of Eternia game was only licensed for Europe. Now this one can be now licensed in Europe, so that's an interesting twist. But will we see Gods of War, which is the other one that's been announced? Will we see that kill things as well? Because again, that's a huge video game IP. I say this many times a year. You're not going to stop seeing the video game ports to the tabletop because they bring in the serious cash. And that's the first driving things of these businesses, folks. Forget your parasocial relationships for once. Forget your, they care about me as a customer. No, first and foremost, they're a business. Second, 1A, 1B, sure, whatever you want to say. But that's really what this is. And so the question is, with this, the most comparable thing is The Witcher. Is Gods of War? I don't know. I'm not a big video game person, right? Like, I am aware, I am used to, I am more than familiar with, but not actually hands-on as much as you can be without that, element of things, familiar with these IPs. So is Gods of War bigger than Witcher? Probably not. But, just like when the first Witcher came around, we haven't really seen anything with that IP. So could this be is it going to be miniature skirmish? Is it going to be one versus all? Is it going to be Cthulhu Death May Die sort of thing? Is it going to be a Hades-esque? What are you doing there with it? That's the big question mark. 7 figures, sure, but, high 7 figures or low 7 figures? They're high achievers like your Marvel Zombie sides or your, let's just stick with it, Masters of Eternia, like 2 million. Not that it's bad either way, but expectations and cost of IP in general there, you have to take that into account. Now, let's stick with the unknown here. Haha. I'm going to go slightly sideways there, but you'll know why I said that in a second. Let's go with Awaken Realms. Let's just give the general overarching wet blanket. What is Awaken Realms going to give us in 2024? I reached out to them and I said, hey, actually, side note here, I reached out to all of the publishers on my contact list and I said, what do you have going on in crowdfunding in 2024? So that's where some of these are generated from, but I haven't heard back from Awaken Realms. I don't anticipate that I will. That's okay. But eyes are going to be on them regardless. Eyes are going to be on them regardless. What else are we going to see? But what else is going to be new? This isn't the year for another nemesis in 2025. But we'll see what else, because not only have they stuck with things that have been in their lines of trilogies, right? Or in their lines of previous IPs, Tainted Grails, those sort of things similarly. Will we see another iteration of an Ether Fields? Will we see another iteration of ISS Vanguard? Gosh, I hope not ISS Vanguard. I don't even have my original copy yet. That's grind my gears all over the place. But then we also saw like something like a Dragon Eclipse, which, you know, wasn't for me, at least during the campaign. You know, I want to see more information before I'm going to, you know, buy a copy at this point. But they also were willing to branch out and go and say, hey, here's something different. Because you know the miniatures are top notch. You know the aesthetic is top notch. It's just the scale. And Awaken Realms Light, I'm going to make an argument, you know, probably had their best release of 2023 in Tamashii Chronicles of Ascend. So what's Light going to have as well? So it's interesting to see where things are going to go, because, again, eyeballs and dollar signs and wallets are going to be being thrown at the screen with whatever they do. It's just what shape, form, and all the other variables are going to be out there, and no one has any freaking clue yet at this point. So I'd like to see. Next up, we're going to go to Into the Unknown. See, on the Unknown, I said that earlier. And anyway, you know them. Kingdoms Forlorn. You know them. Aeon Trespass Odyssey. We're going to get releases. We're going to get deliveries of some of that stuff this year. So that, again, separate video. But they've got something. They emailed me. They said, hey, Chris, we have something for you. Is there going to be, you know, if you want to think of Aeon Trespass Odyssey as version 1, if you want to think of Kingdoms Forlorn as version 2, you know, changing things up, making it dynamically different, focusing on different elements, you know, gameplay, battling is the first one, huge narrative component with a twist on the tiling, exploration battle in the second one. Chris, we might have a version 3, their words, not mine, sometime in 2024 with some more concrete and maybe even a campaign. So, speaking of money being thrown at the screen, right? And Trespass Odyssey is what it is. You know, again, I stand by my comments, and this is going to be old. This was my top game of 2022, folks. I think it's head and shoulders above Kingdom Death. And now Kingdom Death has finally released, you know, the Gambler's Chest. And, you know, maybe in 2026, you'll get some of the other expansions. But, you know, that's the blessing and curse of it. You can have whichever piece of cake or pie you want, and it's going to be cool for you. So everything is not for everybody. Everyone is going to have a preference, and that's awesome with all of the options coming out. So hopefully we'll have some more details in that regard. The next one, Heavy Cardboard already did a playthrough of. Now, are we going to see it anytime in 2024? Well, on crowdfunding we will, but in your house? Heck no. Heck no. This is, I gotta get this title right here, Horror on the Orient Express. Cthulhu on the Orient Express. It's coming from the, you know, old movie, if you're not familiar with it, Murder on the Orient Express. And this is by some heavyweight names, right? Designer of Destinies and the designer of Awaken Realms' other huge hits that we were just sort of alluding to. Lords of Hellas, Nemesis, Nemesis Lockdown, Frostpunk, and that's the Polish designer, Adam, I'm going to massacre his last name. You know who I'm talking about, though. And so now we're getting over to Horror on the Orient Express, where you have the Orient Express, which is the train from the 1920s, a dangerous train ride through the realm of the Dreamlands. Monsters attacking, murderous cults hiding among the passengers, eldritch, thirsty vampires killing everything that moves. Can you find out and explore the dark secrets of the train before time runs out? Oh, yeah. You got to hunt out the cultists. You got to perform the ritual. You got to control a character, new skills, items, talking to passengers, clues, deciding the train's fate, learning spells along the way. This just screams sort of a Cthulhu Death May Die all-in-one train experience, right? It actually reminds me very much of the Hell Train arc over from the manhwa Tower of God, if you're familiar. Tower of God, shout out fans in the comment section. Let me know you're there. But it really just screams because it's combining, as they say, Call of Cthulhu with a tabletop RPG board gaming all in one. And don't get me wrong, I'm not looking for a huge narrative experience. I'm not looking for a Blood on the Clock Tower level immersion. I'm looking for, well, more of this in a train horror unique setting. And that is captivating, fascinating, and utterly intriguing and terrifyingly scary for the wallet at the same time. But you can see why now that this is, of interest so much, right? It's just a Venn diagram of all the things I think that are cool in the first place. It's going to be miniature heavy? Probably. Is it going to be expensive? Oh, yes. But is it one of the most intriguing ones of the year just from all those mystery factors? Absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt from that aspect of things. Then we're going to go over to another one, which name change in a good way. Off the Page is coming to us with The Course of Discovery, a game set in the world of Manifest Destiny. And if you're not familiar with all of their other games like Mind Management, Hero County, they've based them off of very popular comic books. And this is no different. But Lewis and Clark are traveling across the country doing their little thing, if you're not familiar with that, in North America, back a while ago, he says. It's because he doesn't know the exact date and he's not spending the time to look it up, folks. It's one of those things, right? Off the cuff. But all of a sudden, invasive monsters have appeared and you're going to be cooperatively fighting them off across the game board, allowing different maps to be inserted so you can change the adventures that are ahead of you, literally speaking. Daily tasks, daily challenges, resource management, deduction, 2 chapters that it's going to come with, unique mechanics, goals, and components in each ones. They already say on the Board Game Geek page, I'm losing my voice here, that there's 4 expansions, each having more along with it. And there's going to be a ghost who's going to be influencing you along the way. I mean, say what you will again. Like, contrary to most of these other ones we've talked about, Off the Page has not done like 7 figures in all their campaigns, right? I thought Hero County was amazing, but it only got a couple $100,000. This is going to be solid. I said when I did the Hero County video, that's going to be a sleeper hit when it gets delivered, and that's going to be delivered this year too. So this is another one that, I just hope deduction isn't that big of a component. I like deduction, and that's where the other 2 are very similar as well, but I want to see more of the co-op and how can you do a co-op deductive in that sense. So that's why it's intriguing to me. These next couple, we're going to go in a completely different direction. Now, Greater Than Games is going over back to Backrocket. This one was supposed to be originally launched in 2023, but it didn't. It got delayed. So now we're seeing first quarter, I think, of 2024. And this is the remake, the reedition, revision, remastering, whatever you want to call it from the video game side of things. Defenders of the Realm Legends Retold. New generation of heroes is defending Monarch City. And you're taking the cooperative fantasy classic, heroes adventuring, destroying forces of darkness. 6 unique heroes, unique decks, variable player powers. Build it up as you go. More resources to take over the enemy, save the city, defend it against the monsters. Now, they say already in the comment section, you have your own dedicated deck of cards with its own special ability, karma tokens, beneficial use, rerolls, mitigation, defensive walls that you're going to be utilizing to the best extent. Question is, what's the price point going to be for this one? Because it's looking like it's miniature heavy. There's 3D terrain that can apparently be destroyed. Goblin King chasing after gold, curse the land, summoning cultists, all of this crazy stuff, right? So I have no idea what to expect with this one. I have never played the original, and I think it has a relatively good thought at this point of what it did, but is the nostalgia there? Is it evolved enough to make you want to get it at this point? 4 of the last 5 games I've mentioned have been, potentially miniature driven, which is a significant price point then if you're looking at all of these. How many can you get? My wife literally said to me the other day, right? I get, my fair share of review copies right now. And I got my pledge in for Marvel Zombies, and she goes, for the first time, she goes, I think we have a games problem. And that's what I'm thinking of with all this stuff, right? I kind of wish this one wasn't miniature. I kind of wish this one wasn't crowdfunding, because this at a Greater Than Games Spirit Island level price point at retail, I think it'd be a no-brainer. It reminds me, very similarly of one of the upcoming arrivals I'm expecting this year that I'll talk about in the other video of the arriving ones of Freedom 5, the comic book cooperative one. But this, kind of tickles my fancy in terms of I'm intrigued. Show me what you can get. And it's go around over on BackerKit. So at the time of me filming this, they've only got 1,100 people following on BackerKit, and that's not a ton. But it's also BackerKit. And you can check out some of the miniatures they've got over there, which, to be frank with you, they're not terribly impressive. They're not. They don't look like Awaken Realms or CMON quality. And that's kind of what I have the standard bearer set as nowadays. If it's not that, am I better off waiting and seeing if they put one out without that for a lower price point? So that's, something on my horizon of that aspect. The next one was actually going to go to retail with WizKids. Got canceled. Now it's gotten moved over to the recently announced game company publisher Play to Z. It's a little pun, right? A to Z, Play to Z. It is Ascending Empires, the Zenith edition, from the original Ascending Empires, which is a 2011 game. So 12 years later, we're getting a remake of this. You're exploring new planets. This is doing the 4X style of things-ish, with flicking your ships into space, expanding your colonies into the expanse, exploiting and growing your civilization. But you also get to exterminate. So critical, clever combat. Wasn't kidding about the 4X thing there. So dexterity 4X. I think this looks awesome. Flicking, set collecting, tech tree. That's why Catacombs from Elzra is still in my collection, folks. Because there's just something fantastic about the flicking, tech tree upgrades, asymmetric abilities. I just love it. And so I can't imagine this one, if it's done high super quality, that's going to be anything under less than triple digits as well. Because if it goes the Elzra route as a good comparison, I want a playmat. I don't want a board. Those boards, when you're flicking, you get the little edges right. Nope, can't do it. So this is really intriguing. I want to see what you've got here. Show me. This one is high on the list for a reason. There you go. Next up, we're going to a reprint. I think I'd be talking about too many reprints. This is going to be on a lot of people's top 10 games of the year for 2023, and that's Thunder Road Vendetta, right? And, people want the deluxe version. Comes with a couple more exclusive expansions, comes with just more content overall. And they haven't said that all of it isn't going to be available, but some of it just still isn't available at retail. And so the combination of slight deluxifications, slight gameplay content, and just not being available to get the other gameplay content now, a lot of people, weirdly enough, say that some of this expansion is actually relatively significantly worth having, which is usually the opposite of a lot of the expansions lately we've seen from games, especially on crowdfunding, which is rather exciting. The Maximum Chrome Edition has been scalped in the secondary market now for months and months and months. And so Restoration has said, we're going to bring it back to you, folks. We're going to have a little bit more for you as well. Is it going to be on my top 10 list of the year? We'll see. I need some more time before the end of the month to figure it out. So my top 10 probably won't be coming out until January, not April. I did April last year. That was a mistake. But it'll probably be in January. So that may or may not make the list because some of that stuff still needs time. And, I'm not a channel that's big enough that can have all of the games from 2023 played by the end of November. No, I'm sorry. But that's going to be intriguing. Again, just to see what new content they can bring. And I imagine it's going to be one of the biggest ones because a lot of people are going to want it because it's generated a lot of hype and because they're going to time it, like I said, when a lot of people like me put out their top 10 lists, and it's going to generate a lot of excitement and a lot of desire when those lists hit. Guaranteed. So that's why that one's on the list. The next one up, and this may depend on how, again, my next couple weeks go of how eager I am or not, but it has to be on the radar. This is Stone Sword Games. This is Daimyo Battle for Japan. And if you're not familiar with them, they have the recently released, if you're not familiar, Senjutsu, which is just delivered to backers right now towards the end of 2023. Again, is it going to be on my top 10 list? Not sure yet. Haven't got it played enough to know. But depending on how that's received over the next month or two, and sort of where the progress is on this one, because this one, again, I think was actually supposed to launch 2023. But again, I think because the shipping and the whole situation, wanting to get this delivered into backers' hands first, sort of trumped starting the new campaign for obvious reasons. They decided to hold off. And this is a samurai, historically based deck building game inspired by the video game Shogun Total War. You're a daimyo, it's a Japanese feudal lord, in case you're not aware, one of 6 historical clans, and you need to score provinces, honor, economy, and money in order to become the most powerful clan. 3-phase war turns. Alliance, Actions, and Battling. Now, this is a Martin Wallace twist, and they say it sounds very similarly over the top, archingly descriptive wise of Rising Sun. First alliance phase, you choose who you're going to be allied with for the coming battle, and your allies are typically, it says, immune from, being attacked. And so then your alliances are fickle at the same time. Action, you do worker placement with, as they say, a Martin Wallace spin. Place cubes to expand your armies, build fortresses, buy resources, disrupt other plans, and more. And then the battle phase, you're conquering or controlling neutral or otherwise occupied provinces that have yet or will still have a ruling clan that's trying to keep it. 10 regions to control the most points. Do it, rinse and repeat until it's done. So is this going to be miniature driven? It looks like it, again, from that aspect. Not super impressed by the miniatures from Senjutsu right now, and not as well also super impressed by the rulebook, but the concept is there. The standard bearer is set there as the comparison to Rising Sun, and they put out a very entertaining crowdfunding campaign with Senjutsu, so I think a lot of eyes are going to be on this one regardless as a follow-up to see, one-hit wonder or something more. Now, to round out the top 10 here, we're going to go back to the big names. Now, you remember Oathsworn, Shadowborne games, right? Well, they sort of teased towards earlier in the year, Project Mist. Well, what is Project Mist? Well, we still don't have any details. But if it's anything like Oathsworn, now this is going to be an Arthurian Legends tale with area control. And we saw that a little bit with Mordred from CMON, but I'm expecting a little bit heavier mechanics if you're coming from Shadowborne based on Oathsworn from that side of things. So pedigree, check. Is it going to hit the mark though? Again, what's the price point going to be on this bigger game? No details. Shadowborne, call me. Love to learn a little bit more from that side of things. So those are the big 10. You want a few quick hits, sleeper hits here at the end? A little bit of a departure, if you will, as a whole. Let's go. Newcomer, Kinson Key Games, is bringing its Galactic Cruise. That line's gotten a lot of hype on social media, as well as at a couple conventions. It's going to be your heavy, Lacerda-esque worker placement, Euro-style game. Industry, manufacturing, creating your own spaceship and sending, guests into space on your shuttles. And it's, like I said, almost a 4-weight rating on Board Game Geek. And you're going to be launching them. Workers are accompanying them. Sort of remind me of Lunar Rush in that sense. But you're going to be navigating them through destinations, days in space, and where they're going to go and give you rewards based on your progress, your company goals, and what they do in space in the first place. So board's really impressive to look at. Dynamically speaking, we're going to see where it goes and how it compares. Similarly, on the worker placement side of things, another one I've been sort of lurking in one of the Facebook groups for, Luthier, 2024 from Paverson Games. You may remember Paverson from Distilled. So speaking of pedigrees from that aspect, but we're going completely different heavy worker placement, and we're going Western Europe, skilled craftspeople, noble patrons, and virtuoso performers as you're creating a new type of worker placement game where you get to create musical instruments via mechanisms of hidden bidding and worker placement, while actually courting real historic patrons. So, they're saying new theme, new mechanism, marriage of unique gameplay, strategic gameplay lover, and classical music lover. I went to a liberal arts college. I am, more familiar with the classical music because we had to take a class in music in the first place. So, yeah, I went there. So I'm interested to see what this is, how this entails, and what, it's actually doing uniquely. It reminds me a little bit of a way in a completely different mechanical approach, but like something like Unconscious Mind, where, really surprised, really happy with what I had on the table with that aspect. And so Luthier is definitely going to surprise people, I think, as a potentially underrated game. Another one we're going to talk about here very quickly. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning at CMON's one versus all skirmish style Degenesis Clan Wars, which is going to be launching sometime, I believe, even on the crowdfunding preview Kickstarter page right now, launching sometime in Q3 already of 2024. So with those other two and with this one, that's already 3 of, maybe 6 or so that they're doing a year right now. So we're getting already a good sense of that, but it's asymmetric, semi-cooperative, and you're going to have tactical scale skirmish war game elements where one person is the hostile and the other person is the protectorate. And you're the protectorate, you get these cultist-like clan members, iconic figures, that give them, you know, asymmetric powers to, you know, overwhelm the horde, essentially. So how skirmish is it going to be? We'll see. I mean, is it going to be more like the Song of Fire and Ice with that one? Or is it going to be more dungeon crawl skirmish-esque, tactically, like a god tier-ish, if you will? So interested to see where that one goes too. Then we're going to go over from All Play. All Play recently caught my mind and my eye with their latest announced release that just came out. I believe PAX Unplayed had some copies of it. And this is River Valley Glassworks. And I'm assuming this is going to be one of their trios or quattros that they put out on their crowdfunding campaigns as well. Collecting pieces of glass, placing them strategically in your shop, almost Azul-like in the description, but more of a market modular drafting situation where each river tile can only take a specific shape. You have to play into a space adjacent to where you want to draft from. After you get your glass, the whole river shifts, revealing new pieces, new opportunities. So depending on how you place, your score drastically changing, what's available you drastically changing. So this speaks to me in that sense as a nice sort of lightweight 30 to 40 minutes, 1 to 5 player game as well. Not to forget the bigger one launching in Monolith's new January campaign, assuming I have my Mythic Battles Ragnarok, is going to be Conan. Conan's coming on to the 16th of January, so less than a month at the time of me filming this away. And it's going to give you more. It's going to give you more streamlined, more new stuff, more everything. And it's relatively well thought of as a one versus all game, sort of one of the bigger name ones that come out immediately, but it hadn't, you know, made a lot of traction. So a lot of the secondary market stuff, like some of the expansions, I think were rather hard to get otherwise. So they're bringing it back to us in that sense. And I'm assuming if that goes well, maybe we'll hear some rumoring, some lingo, or some out of limbo, if nothing else, of Mythic Battles Egypt, if that's ever going to be happening with that god pantheon. Not like I need any more of it. Haven't played most of the original. So back to the drawing board. And that is that. More money well spent there, Chris. And last up, we'll talk about The Presence, which is, again, another one versus all or fully cooperative game, where basically one person is the spirit and the others are investigators going into this haunted mansion-esque feel. And you don't know at the beginning of the game if you're the investigators or potentially even the spirit. I'm not quite sure about that. But you don't know if it's going to be fully cooperative or you don't know if it's going to be the spirit trying to take them out, because apparently the spirit can decide, well, if you're not going to be able to achieve your goal by the end of the game, well, I'm just going to turn on you and hit and sabotage and make your life more difficult to see if I can win the game instead. So that's an interesting dynamic element, isn't it? I kind of like the sound of that one. And so, yeah, we'll see where it goes. So that's Purple Moose. That's it. I'm sure I'm missing some. I'm sure I'm missing a lot. I'm sure that there are some unknown, unannounced projects from people like Go On Board, from Glass Cannon Unplugged. I'm sure we're going to see a few more from All Play. Awaken Realms, like I said, no information on anything. So there's a lot of unknown. Haha. To close the loop from the pun earlier on unknown. I don't know. That's all I got. Let me know what else you're excited about. Let me know what else I'm missing. Let me know what else should be on my radar. I'm not even mentioning the two that Garphill just announced, the spiritual successor to Hadrian's Wall, as well as another set in their historical line of worker placements. So, can't remember either of their names, although I believe the Hadrian's Wall one is actually called The Anarchy, based on real times when there were some troubles in England hundreds of years ago. So, that's what you get, rambling at the end, folks. Rambling at the end. That's all I got. Hopefully this is awesome. Hopefully this puts some on your radar. Hopefully you don't have too much FOMO from this past year and you're not running out of space like I am as a whole. So buy games from me. I'm selling a bunch of stuff. Subscribe if you made it this far. Peace out. Stay classy. See you around. 2024 on our way. Less than 1,000 before we hit 10K. I don't freaking know how it happened, but you guys are great. So thanks.